Good afternoon, everyone, to another exciting episode of PWHR Voices. Today we have with us Mr. Ganesh S, Global CHRO for Emeritus. We welcome you on board, sir. It's a pleasure for us to be speaking with you.
Thank you so much, Sugan. Pleasure that I get this opportunity to speak to you too.
All right. Today, for people who are hearing us out and who follow our videos, they know that, every week we come out with some or the other intriguing HR-centric topic that we discuss. And today we are discussing how can companies today promote acceptance of diverse sexual orientations and gender identities at workplace. Just a small introduction and a summary of why we're talking about it. What is the authenticity of this topic in today's time? Well, workplace is evolving to become more inclusive and diverse, and it is vital that companies promote acceptance of diverse sexual orientations and gender identities. This is not only important for the well-being of employees, but it's actually benefiting companies' bottom line by creating a more engaged and productive workforce. Now, in order to promote the acceptance of diverse sexual orientations and gender identities, it is crucial in creating an inclusive workplace as a first step. Companies can promote acceptance by developing diversity and inclusion policies, providing training programs, offering benefits and support, creating spaces, partnering with LGBTQ plus organizations. That's a very important aspect. First of all, we need to understand what is the ethos and the psyche behind including LGBT in the workplace. It's not just giving them a space to work, it is hiring basis talent and not basis somebody's sexual preferences. So by promoting the acceptance of diverse sexual orientations and gender identities, companies can create a more engaged and productive workforce. And to lay a better light and emphasis on what exactly and what kind of strategies can companies devise, so we have Mr. Ganesh with us. So, my first question to you, sir, what, according to you, are some of the policies and practices do we have in place already to ensure that employees feel safe and supported in the workplace, regardless of their sexual orientation or gender identity?
Thank you so much, Sugan. I'm so happy that we're discussing this as a topic today. And I think it's a very, very important topic, very, very pertinent topic in the organization or across a corporate world today. Let me give you a bit of a background of what Emeritus is for people who aren't aware of it, and then come to the topic itself. So Emeritus is a mission-driven organization with the mission of making high-quality education accessible and affordable to people across the globe. And that itself, and that in that mission itself, you can see that it is about creating access to one of the most, I think, powerful tools of human development and bringing equity to humans across the globe, which is education, and making it accessible to everybody, regardless of gender, regardless of orientation, regardless of where you are today, right? And I think that's a very, very core mission that we have. Coming specifically to what you asked us, right? So I'll give you a bit of a stat around what we were and what we are today.
Please.
About 3 years before, we were in our own sort of team size, right? And that we were mostly in India, but we were 70% men and 30% women. Today we are 50% men, 50% women, 49% men, and 1% a non-binary gender. And we take great pride in that stat because I think it's a testimony of how we've actually not just welcomed people, great talent at that, to our workplace, but also made it something which is worthwhile for them to actually continue and promote to the mission, right? So I think that's a great thing. Incidentally, this is also a great reflection of the student base that we have. We had our impact survey that we do every year, and we've got over 250,000 students across the globe who register with us for various courses. Of that, 1 to 2% of our students actually identify with a non-binary gender. So it's a real reflection of what we have as students is what we have in our own team members as employees as well. So I think it's a great connotation to have. And how did we do it? Somewhere along in about 2.5 years back, we we declared ourselves as a gender neutral organization.
Okay.
And we said that regardless of, I mean, we're not going to have any sort of gender bias while we hire. We're going to keep in mind equity of gender, equity of growth, etc., when we actually promote and grow people. And only thing that matters to us is merit and the quality of talent that are there. At the same time, Sugandh, we also went to become a virtual first organization. So today we are 2,000 odd people who are working completely virtually. We actually call ourselves a 2,000 office organization because we've got people across the globe in 22 countries who are working in their own home offices that are there. What that enabled, Sugandh, is the fact that people were safe. Obviously, we're safe at home, and people were safe to express themselves, work at their times, late nights, early mornings. I mean, if
Mm-hmm.
you're a working mother, you don't need to work in a particular time schedule where your kid is actually studying, but work in a late evening shift. Absolutely, you're welcome to work here. You don't need to tell the other person whether you have a specific special ability or not. You come to us and work. As long as you deliver the work, we're happy. So I think what that did was that we opened up the avenues for people to come across to our organization and deliver their best regardless of their gender and that we have. We also followed up with things like creation of resource groups, right? So if you look at LGBTQ
Mm.
specifically, we have a resource group which works with people who identify themselves with a particular sexual orientation and find themselves comfortable to discuss points, discuss issues that are there. I make it a point to make myself present in some of those meetings just to understand what are the topics that are discussed, what are the topics that matter to them, and how can we make it better for people to be aware of it. Our own CEO, our founders, take great interest in ensuring that those wrinkles that we have, if they are covered and
It's very
cleared
important for
as
the
and when we progress.
leadership
So
to
just a
deep,
brief, yeah.
yeah, it's important for the leadership to delve into such topics and such aspects because just on the management level, you cannot solve if from the leadership you do not have that backing. So very rightly you've pointed
Absolutely.
out that your leaders also deep delve into such issues, into sorting out and bringing the most of it in terms of the workplace as a culture. So that's very heartening to hear that leaders are taking that onus, that it is their baby, it is their organization, and that needs to thrive in any and every possible branch of it. So, according to you, have we provided enough education and training to our employees on LGBTQ plus issues, including terminologies, the pronouns that we have to use, and the unique challenges that people from LGBTQ individuals, may face? I'm not talking about Emeritus. I am talking about organizations in general. How do you feel? Are we enough educated that we can actually understand the kind of challenges that they face and even provide solutions to it, not just from a leadership lens but from a peer lens as well?
It's a great question, and it's a very, very important part of diversity, not just about LGBTQ, but also about diversity in general,
Right.
for people to appreciate someone who's not, according to their heads, normal, and to say and for that, I mean, especially in India, I mean, India that way is progressing towards
Very true.
appreciating diversity, appreciating maybe even a non-binary gender, someone who's identified themselves as a trans man, trans woman, and working with them, right? We, we're coming of age as we speak. We were fortunate enough that we had colleagues. I mean, we're there in about, like I said, about over 20 countries. So we had colleagues from, say, US, from Mexico, from Europe, etc., where LGBTQ and gender was completely something which was as normal as possible. But in places like, say, India or Middle East, etc., that becomes a challenge. So, of course, there is a lot more to be done, but we're making great strides towards it. I think one place, but a certain step towards acceptance of these diverse hues. is by picking up the right trainings. It is important that it is not seen as a sore thumb that you're trying to promote or show off, but it's seen as something which is normal. And for that,
And you feel for the
training need
cause,
not be
actually.
absolutely. You just hit the nail on the head. It's important for people to feel that, oh, I'm going to attend this training on unconscious bias because from today I've got to appreciate a third gender, an LGBTQ person. It is not that. It has to be pervasive across multiple policies, across things that you talk about. Let me give you an example. When we were renewing our medical insurance for India, of course, medical insurance has got spouse, daughter, parents-in-law. It doesn't talk about same-sex partners. We were very, very careful when we said that we pick a vendor who will have something to do with, regardless of what the sex of the partner is, that it would be identified as a partner, and the person, regardless that partner identity, is given that benefit, right? So I think that has to be come not just through trainings, but also to the fact that we ingrain it in the way that people actually live their corporate lives in organizations. I think that's the maturity that today India or corporate world in India has to develop or move towards.
Now we've understood that what is actually the preset behind having people from the LGBTQ within a skilled workforce. So how can we actively now recruit and retain them and create pathways for them, for them to see that there is career development or advancement if they are associating with X firm? Because they also need to understand it is not just a platform that you as an employer are giving it to them. You also need to showcase a roadmap to them. Look, if you work with us, we give you that platform. From here you can lead to somewhere being at X, Z, or Y position, and why not even at leadership positions. So how do you think we can actively recruit and retain them? It's important to retain them, because the problem is, even if they get imbibed within organizations, the peers are not that skilled or that understanding to a level wherein they also make them feel comfortable. That is where organizations are lacking in. At the management level, you may be screened and you may be trained enough on how do you need to retain them or you need to recruit them. But at the end, they have to stay with peers. They have to work with them. So that environment needs to be in a sync, that they feel comfortable and they feel at ease by working with you.
Yes. Great question again. I think you alluded to that a while back when you said that the leadership has to take interest in some of these, right? The
Right.
leadership has to show the way that is there. In our own organization, one of our board members is actually aligned or has identified himself as someone who's on from the LGBTQ group, and he takes great pride in being a part of the ERGs that we have, taking forefront whenever we have a Pride Month, etc. So we start from there, and he's a business leader, of course, a part of the board, now part of the ERG. So that is the first display of what we say as our commitment towards the group that is there. But I think what's more is for us to also identify ourselves in terms of, let's say, growth, in terms of recruitment, in terms of, so it's small things like when you have an application form for a recruitment, you having a third gender as, so male,
Right.
female, and a third gender in there. I think organizations do that today, but it's important. It's a great show of affinity to talent, that you have that as a recognized gender that is there. Again, bringing the group as an ERG, showing them that leaders across across our business and regions actually identify themselves, come to the ERG, show the other people that we can grow in this organization just like another person, regardless of what our bias is or what we are, is very important. Just one more point in that, right? So we are an edtech organization. We develop courses that is there. One of the courses that we developed with Judge Business School, Cambridge, was a blockbuster course. It was about diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's called DEI, Strategies for Business Impact. So it's our design team, our team which worked with Judge Business School to actually develop this blockbuster course, and it was a hotcake seller, right? So the fact that our own products that we develop are a reflection of the ethos that we own is very, very important. And I think it was highly appreciated. Our organization, people from, I mean, not just people who identify themselves as LGBTQ, but others as well, felt that this is an organization which actually talks and walks the talk.
So
Right.
it can actually
I think
help
that's
students
important. I talked
understand
about
who they are at a very early stage.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think that's important for us. Of course, when we don't promote a person because he, she, or they are from a particular gender, but we promote them in spite of them being a particular gender, and I think that's important for us to
exactly
understand
the
that,
point.
right? It's being unfair. Yeah, yeah. So sorry. Yeah.
No, that's actually the point. While I previously also said that in an organization, if you're hiring them, it's not just a platform that you're giving them. You're hiring them basis their talent, not basis their caste, not basis their phrase, not basis their preferences. You know what kind of preference they want to act into. It is purely basis talent. It is in a way like any normal employee. They are selling their skill and you're buying their skill.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's helped us a lot, because today in India alone, we are present in 63 cities. We are a virtual first organization. We're present in 63 cities. A lot of them are working mothers. A lot of them are from a third gender. A lot of them are from diverse sexual orientation. They're absolutely safe being where they are.
So, what metrics can we track to measure the success of our efforts? Now that you're making enough efforts, companies are making enough efforts, you have strategies and anecdotes to share. But then, what is the metrics of measuring the success of efforts to promote acceptance of diverse sexual orientation and gender identities in workplace? How would we know that, to what extent you've been working? What is your success rate? What was the percentage before? What is it now? Is it just basis, the kind of or the number of inclusions that you're taking within an organization? And then we need to see the metrics of what is the retainership program? How are you retaining these employees? So what exactly are those strategies and measures by which we can see, or we can measure and we can track now that actually we're on right path?
Yeah, great question again. I think three parts, and I covered this briefly earlier. Diverse hues in leadership, in the board, etc., are important. You being seen as a leader, regardless of where you are and what you are, is important. So something like a board presence, something like executive leadership presence, is very, very important. And I think it's not something that a person was sitting in the board because he was from a particular hue, but the fact that the person will get a seat at the board, seat at the executive, regardless of that. So that's A. The second one that we talked about is also the diverse mix that I talked about, right? So we were 70-30. Today we are 50-49 and 1% of the third gender that is there. We, like I said, passionately track that. We keep our minds, while we don't hire for a particular gender, but we keep that, and we see that it's a reflection of what our students already are, right? So that's the second one. The third one is, of course, surveys. I think that's important, because you need to hear the pulse on the ground. You need to hear what the people are talking about. We've got two sets of surveys that happen. One, of course, is the survey that multiple of our LOBs actually run, because a question that you ask in India about gender identity is very different from a question that you'll ask in the US about, say, a gender identity. We're talking basic, they're talking advanced.
Yeah, the issues and the questions are basic. The circumstances we are dealing into. So we're dealing in such circumstances, hence the questions are in this direction.
Yes. So we've got multiple surveys which do that, and all of them have got a section. Every survey that we run has to have a section on diversity, which talks about sexual orientation, which talks about gender, which talks about unconscious bias, which talks about being safe in an organization, right? And being actually healthy that you would be able to be recognized regardless of what you are. That's the second. That's the third one. The other part of this is also we are a great place to work company, GPTW company, and the Great Place to Work company, the survey, which leads to the certification, also has a very, very detailed section around diversity. I'm just happy to say that 92% of our global workforce felt aligned to the approach that we're taking towards diversity. And it's a great, great testimony, right, of our people feeling that, and 92% of them actually feeling that this is where I want to be. This is where I identify myself, regardless of what I am, right? So, and I think that's a great number to actually throw in there. So three places, just to summarize. A, I think presence in leadership. B, presence in the organization span, spread that is there. And three, of course, the pulse of people who are on ground and who talk about diversity and the initiatives that you do.
Fair enough. You were pretty elaborate as well as clear in your thoughts, considering that you're actually working into this particular phenomena within your own organizations, and you're actually taking out strategies on how to combat certain challenges that companies usually face. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Ganesh. It was a pleasure speaking with you. Your insightful thoughts and anecdotes has really intrigued me. And, now as an individual or as an employee, I feel that, yes, India is at a path of growth because we're talking about it. We're strategizing it. We're considering it as a problem. The top of the bottom line and the correct approach towards such a problem is, first of all, accepting that we have this problem within our organization or within our country. So yes, India, we are facing this issue, but I'm glad to see, and I can positively now say that we are actually working towards this. We're not at par with other countries, but actually we're still in that developing stage, wherein the acceptance is coming from each and every angle and aspect of it. So thank you so much, Mr. Ganesh. It was a pleasure speaking with you. And for people who have questions to Mr. Ganesh on any kind of aspect or strategies that they want to devise, because he rightly said that, he's worked with certain organizations like Judge also for creating such programs for students to learn, and at a very early stage to understand also that what exactly are the kind of circumstances they need to face with in times to come if they are working with X number of organizations. So you can ask him, you can tag him. He'll be happy to respond to all your queries. And for now, thank you so much, sir. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you, Susan. Pleasure.
Thank you.